Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at kind of a wide assortment of items. The thumbnail has loose graded, and we'll start off with some loose graded items, but there's a lot of baggies and mail-away items I wanted to cover, as well as play sets and vehicles. Just a good, nice assortment of recent sales. Some pretty rare stuff, too. Some stuff I had never seen before or seen recently. So, as always, I just appreciate you guys watching the channel, and please do leave me a like if you enjoy this kind of content. Just like to cover recent sales on eBay. All right, so let's start off with treasures from the attic, and you'll have to excuse my voice. The allergies are brutal right now. He had a bunch of very nice UKG loose graded figures that sold. Some of these I saw, some of them I didn't see because they sold so quickly. This is a tough one to find, and this is the Spanish Poch Luke X-Wing. So he's kind of known for really pale hands, as you can kind of see here. And, you know, every Spanish Poch figure, those are kind of the early figures, they're just really known for poor paint applications and weak sonic welding. The paint doesn't stay on very well. You can kind of see the chipping by the feet there and on the hands. It's just one of those figures that's nearly impossible to find mint. It's just, it never happens. I have one of these in my own collection, and it's in pretty similar condition. I can't remember the grade, 70 or 75, something like that. The emblems on the Spanish Poch figure for the helmet, they just never stay on. They kind of come off really easily. You can also see, if you look really carefully, in the white portion of the helmet, you'll see some little brown spots there. I hope that's coming through okay. You can really see it on the back of the figure. See those little brown spots? That's another telltale sign that you're dealing with a Spanish Poch figure. It happens a lot on Princess Leia. You know, the first 12 Princess Leia, the white turns kind of mottled. It's kind of a mottled look to it. So a lot of those early Spanish Poch figures do get that. And it's a Hong Kong COO, because the Spanish Pochs, they basically imported Hong Kong parts unassembled, and they assembled and painted them in Spain. And, you know, because of how crappy the paint was that the Spanish Poch factory used, the paint just doesn't stay on well. It degrades really easily, and that's why it gets that modeling that you see on the helmet. So anyway, they're kind of a cool piece of collecting history. And eventually, I think it's the Poch and the PBP factory, I think it was around 81, 82, the two companies merged, and they started manufacturing their own parts and assembling and painting them there in the Spanish PBP factory. So they're still not quite up to standards relative to like Hong Kong and Taiwan and Palitoy, things like that. But they're very sought after just because they're a little tougher to find. You can kind of see also the torso versus the limbs. You know, the limbs have started to kind of really darken. Very cool figure there. It's just, you know, for some of us that love these Spanish figures, it's just kind of another kind of subcategory to collect. And it's very desirable to get some of these early Spanish Poch figures. So that one sold for 160 pounds, which is $207. That was a bargain. I mean, I paid more than that for mine ungraded. So to get one of those for $207, I mean, I probably would have bought it myself before I let that one sit. I mean, that sold before I even saw it get listed. So same seller had a bunch of other beauties, though. This was this Poch C-3PO. A little bit easier to find this one in really clean condition. The vac metallization or the gold paint they use tends to stay on very well. I got one of these UKG 85. This is an 80%, and it was, again, listed for a very fair price of 185 pounds, which is $240. This one actually sat for a while, which I was surprised that it didn't sell, because it is very tough to find this one in super clean condition, but not as tough as like the Luke X-Wing and some of these others, but it's definitely a desirable figure, and this one was priced very, very well for what it was. So very nice looking figure. They also had a blue lightsaber Luke Jedi Hong Kong. That one sold for 250 pounds, which is $324. You know, for a UKG 90% gold level, straight 90 subscores. Very nice figure and worth every penny if you ask me. This was a 90 grade Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider. So that's a very, very high grade example for the Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider. That one also did sell for 675 pounds, which is $876. Again, you got a 90 grade. The paint on it was pretty much flawless, and usually the silver paint around the face especially, here's a good close-up here. This paint is basically flawless, and it's just really tough to find one of these where the horns and the eyes and all that don't at least have some minor rubbing to it or minor scratches. That silver paint does not stay on very well, but this one truly was a pretty perfect example. So I can understand paying that much without a doubt. And I've got some Popup R2-D2s, one ungraded and then one graded. So here is the graded one that was UKG 80%. And that one was from a seller in the UK for 595 pounds, which is $773. I mean, you compare it to this one. This one is a loose, ungraded one, complete with the saber. I'm assuming the saber is not repro. It says it's genuine. That one sold for $800. So, that shows you the difference in price for the R2-D2 Pop-Up lightsaber here in the US versus overseas. Over in the UK, you got a cleaner looking one that was already graded for a price that sold for less than what this one sold for, which this one is a very nice example, but I don't think that the sticker on this one compares to this one. This sticker looks a lot cleaner to me. But this is probably a 75 plus grade, and the other one was an 80, and it looks like an 80 to me. The sticker looks cleaner. It's not yellowed like this one is. But it sold for less than what this one sold for here in the US. So it's surprising, but that's just the way it is sometimes when you look at international price. Yak Face is the same way. We talked about that before, where Yak Faces over here in the US, they go for, even loose, go for a lot more than where they do in the UK. This seller had, cut cards that, that figures are no longer on the cards, but the pretty mint looking examples of the Droids R2-D2 and the Droids C-3PO with the coins. And, again, the figures are not still in the card, but those were in pretty good shape. The R2 is probably like a 75 plus would be my guess. C-3PO looked pretty clean. I didn't look at it too closely, but, I'd say a 75 plus and probably an 80 or 85 for the C-3PO. And that was a big price, though, $1,850 for both of those, which I thought was maybe a little high. I think if you're patient, or if this had been in an auction, I don't think it would have gone anywhere close to $1,850, but that's just my personal opinion. Loose graded, you can get a C-3PO probably in the ballpark of $700 to $900, somewhere in there, depending on the grade. The R2 would be more expensive, admittedly, in high grade, but that's probably, again, about a 75 grade based on the discoloration to the sticker. So, anyway, $1,850 to me feels like a little too high, but it did include the coins, so maybe that's kind of the going rate. I don't know those particularly closely. They're just not figures I follow very closely. And then here was a UKG 90% size Snoodles. I don't know who bought this, but one of my Patreon supporters did buy this. I sent this out in a buy it now alert, and I thought this was a good price for a 90% gold level. 150 pounds, which is 194 US dollars. AFA 85s for this figure, I mean, they go for stupid money. I mean, like easily double this price. It's weird. Like any of the size Noodles and Max Rebo Band, if they're loose graded by AFA, I guess just most people didn't do that. They didn't send them in individually graded like that. So as a result, when they do show up on eBay, they tend to go for really massive numbers if they're in high grade. So I thought for a UKG 90, this was a pretty good deal at 150 pounds or, about $200. Speaking of, here is that one that Toy Scout had. This is the Trilogo example of the Max Rebo Band, and all of the bandmates are still sealed in the factory bag. So that was pretty cool to see that. So this is kind of unused contents, and it also did include the catalog that it comes with. But that's a pretty neat item and pretty rare, and the price reflected that. It sold for $771 on 36 bids. So pretty cool to see that one. And lo and behold, I think we just covered this particular J.C. Penney Return of the Jedi multi-pack mail-away. It's got 4 baggies, and I think this exact mail-away just sold in the last Heritage auction that closed like May 14th, somewhere in there, or excuse me, March 14th. And it was all splayed out, but it was the same figures, which is Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. And it was a CAS 80 grade, and it sold for like $2,500 or so, if memory serves, somewhere in that ballpark after the buyer's premium. So it's just interesting because I remember making that video, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this multi-pack before. And lo and behold, there was another one on eBay that I forgot about. So it's the exact same one as far as I can tell. It's got the Luke Farm Boy, Princess Leia First 12, Darth Vader, and Han First 12 in a multi-pack. So this one was still factory sealed, and it was sold by Toy Scout in an auction. It sold for almost $2,100. So that number makes sense, you know, when you think about the one that just sold at Heritage for $2,500 that was already graded. So pretty interesting comparison there. I think if I bought this item, I would send it in and have it uncirculated, graded by CAS. I mean, that would be a really awesome item to have. Next up, some other baggies and mailaways. This was just a simple SWB mailaway for C-3PO, but this price was great. I mean, usually any of those early SWB, CD, any of those baggies for the main heroes tend to be pretty expensive. And this one sold for $140.50, which I thought was a great deal. Very, very good deal on that one. And they also had some heaters. This one obviously is the Mailaway Boba Fett, and it includes the note to consumer, the catalog, as well as the original box. And obviously the box is where your money is on that one, because it's very tough to find these 100% complete. And I mean, you know, not super hard, but they are a little more difficult. The baggie is pretty easy to find. You can find this particular baggie really easily, but and the paperwork you can also replace pretty easily, but the box is just very tough to get a hold of. I don't know what this would grade. If I had to guess, I'd say like a 75 plus, just because of the box mainly. I would assume that the Boba Fett baggie, you know, it doesn't look like it's got any discoloration, but you know, who knows? It's hard to tell from these photos. But I'm guessing it would probably grade a 75 plus, maybe an 80 if you're lucky. But the box had some noticeable dings on it, so I think that holds the grade back. But still, it sold for $860, which I thought was a great deal. And they also had the Bosk mail-away, where it was in pretty mint condition. You know, maybe a little discoloration to the figure, which is common for this particular Bosk. It's the orange head Bosk, I think. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But it's that early baggie with the white made in Hong Kong lettering. SWA baggie is what they call it. And it's 100% complete with the box. That sold for $612, which was a bargain. Very good deal, given what graded examples for this can often go for. If I had been smart, I would have bought it, but I'm holding true to not buying anything. It's been over almost 4 months now, believe it or not. Next up, this was a pretty rare item as well. This is the Trilogo Hoth Rescue Set. It looks like it's got the figure still in the baggie, along with the Tauntaun, the Wampa, and then all the contents. And the box was in pretty good shape. It included a sliding acrylic case. The box wasn't perfect, but I mean, that's pretty nice. For how rare this item is, or how tough it is to find this 100% complete with the baggies, you know, the figure's still in the baggies, that's a very nice item. And that one did sell at $13.75, which that's probably feels about right to me, if you ask me. I know Chris over at Rogue 5 had one of these for sale, and it wasn't, the figures weren't still sealed in the baggie, and it sold for almost that price. So I thought that price was pretty fair. On to some vehicles and play sets and things like that. We do have a Power of the Force Tatooine skiff. This one was not perfect, okay? It was listed for $800, and it sold for, I've already forgotten, I think it was $675 when I looked it up. But this one did disclose some defects. It had some, you know, loose rails. One of the tips of, you know, of the spires is chipped, you know, stuff like that. But still, that's a pretty decent deal, $675. And I would say don't overpay on the Tatooine skiff right now. They've really come back down a little bit in price, just based on my non-scientific, non-expert advice. I just feel like those, every time I see them, they seem to be coming down in price slowly. So I wouldn't overbid on one of those. Some 12-inch figures. This was a beautiful 12-inch Boba Fett, complete with the box and all the paperwork. That one sold for $700. And then here was an IG-88. He did note some light staining to it, but it looked pretty clean to me. And that one sold in an auction for $577. That's the lowest price I've seen in a while for the IG-88. The bombs didn't look... It looks like the bombs maybe had some staining to them. You can kind of see there. And I think it's because if they were held in that little bandolier, it just stains the plastic and discolors the plastic on them. But still, the figure itself looked very clean. So that one, again, sold for $577, which that's, again, the lowest price I've seen in a while. That's a great deal there for a complete 15-inch IG-88. Here was a rare item. I vaguely remember this, but this is the first time I've seen one of these sell on eBay in a while, if not ever. But this is the Luke Skywalker headset radio, which is very cool. Kind of gives you a, the Luke Gunner card image there on the box, and then the kid can listen to the radio on it. But that's a very cool item, and clearly very rare just based on this sales price. It included the box, the instruction sheet, and then a used but in very good shape radio set, and it is advertised as working as well, and that sold for $1,000. So I can only imagine what a sealed one of these would go for. It's got to be an absolutely massive number. And then here is the Creature Cantina playset, unused contents on this one, still in the baggies, and the box was immaculate. Look at that box. That is super clean. That one sold in an auction, 26 bids for $540. It did, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, man. Never mind my comment about it being immaculate box. It did have it had the proof of purchase cut out, but the front anyway looks super nice. That's nice right there. The other side, unfortunately, they cut the proof of purchase out. So $540.77 on that one. Here's the Empire Strikes Back version of the electronic laser rifle, which I think that might be the only one. I don't think there's a Star Wars one. It's got the Hoth Stormtrooper on there. Pretty awesome. Awesome box. Look at that. Oh, that is so awesome. I just love seeing these kind of off-the-wall items with the, the box art. Just so cool to see. So that one sold for $760. Big number there. Looks like it's still in the zip ties, maybe. This was an unused contents original X-Wing with the Long Play logo there. So that one sold for $400. You can see there the X-Wing is basically unused. I don't know if it's missing the it's still got the laser cannons inside the sealed baggie there. It's got the inserts, the original white portion of the X-Wing, and then an unused sticker sheet. So the box is not great, but it's, that's pretty awesome. $400, that's a good deal. And then here is the radio-controlled Sandcrawler. I thought this price was a little low to me. This was 100% complete and working. And he only listed it for $902, which seems really low to me. I don't know. I mean, to me, I was thinking like $1,200, $1,300. That seems to be the going rate for 100% complete working Jawa Sandcrawler. So how cool is that? That was a good deal there at $902. And then finally, here was an unused contents ESB AT-AT, and this has got the the survival kit. Includes all those accessories inside there. This is still one of I never had this growing up, but this is still, to me, one of the most quintessential items from the Empire Strikes Back. I just absolutely love that item. And that one sold over in the UK for £600, which is $780. So pretty decent deal. Again, it was unused contents. All the contents were still sealed in the bags, unused sticker sheet, all that. So that would be a good candidate to send in for qualified grading. So to me, £600, $780, pretty good deal there, given that, just a loose, complete AT-AT these days can go for $200 to $250 all day long. So very good deal there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent sales. Kind of a nice wide assortment of different items that have all sold recently. Be sure to leave me a like again if you did enjoy the video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.